Here we go then, it's the first night race of the season and we are here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Welcome along to round 2 of 21 Grand Prix in the 2019 Formula 1 season. Valtteri Bottas got it all right and bagged a fastest lap as well for the first race in Australia. Mercedes on the second row and on the back foot against Ferrari here in Bahrain this weekend. The name Bahrain coming from the Arabic Al-Bahrain, and Bahrain had the first post-oil economy in the Persian Gulf. It's where they first discovered oil and started producing it as well. We go to Shanghai next. You can fit the Kingdom of Bahrain into that city 8 times over. You can fit this track onto the circuit at Shanghai as well. It's the similar distance, 3.36 miles long. There are 3 DRS zones here for the first time ever. It's a very blustery evening here in the desert. We should get lots and lots of overtaking. How about a repeat of this, eh? A triple overtake in 2018. Lewis Hamilton into turn 1, getting past the Renault, the Force India and the McLaren. There's overtaking on the approach up to turn 4 as well. Sebastian Vettel on the inside. Valtteri Bottas going the long way round and getting pushed off the track as well as the Ferrari ease past the Mercedes. And down into turn 10. Could be a crosswind there this evening, making braking even more tricky than it normally is. And it's always a chaotic start here with 20 cars diving into that left-hander. Soft tyres with a red stripe, medium tyres about 9/10 of a second slower per lap with the yellow stripe. The hard tyre 1.9 seconds slower per lap but lasting longer, and with the white stripe as well. Expect high degradation. It's an abrasive surface, the tyres sliding around. Here's the grid then, second youngest and the youngest pole sitter ever in Formula 1. Sebastian Vettel did his in 2008. Leclerc did his last night. Lewis Hamilton out qualifying Valtteri Bottas. First time the Finn's been beaten by a teammate here in Bahrain. Max Verstappen starts in the top 5 for the first time ever here alongside Kevin Magnussen. Carlos Sainz for McLaren alongside Kimi Raikkonen for Alfa Romeo. Twice he's won from outside of the top 7 here. Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo make up row 5. 2 McLarens in the top 10 for the first time since 2017. Roman Grosjean with a 3-place grid penalty now keeps Alexander Albon company in the Toro Rosso. Pierre Gasly, a disappointing qualifying for him in the Red Bull alongside Sergio Perez in the Racing Point. Daniel Kvyat twice has scored points from outside the top 10, is 15th on the grid alongside Giovinazzi. Hulkenberg had engine mapping issues and has Lance Stroll for company as they were knocked out in Q1. And Williams, who co-hold the record for the most front row lockouts in Formula 1 along with Ferrari and McLaren, making up the back row again. Martin Brundle on a blustery night. It's more Ilkley, more Bartat out there than it is the middle of the desert.
Yeah, they would call it a fen blow in Norfolk, but it's almost a sandstorm out there, and I know all the drivers are concerned about just how windy it is and how exposed it is, particularly out the back of the circuit. It feels windy here, I must say, in the pit straight, but you're well protected by the grandstands, of course, and the pit lane. It is going to be very much a part of the race, and I know the drivers are pretty nervous about it.
It'll be a headwind down the main straight, it'll be a crosswind into turn 4, it'll be a tailwind into the final braking point at the end of a DRS zone into turn 11. So they've got to cope with very specific, differing ways of adjusting their braking, car sensitivity throughout the 57 laps. And Martin, as I mentioned, with the tyres sliding around as well, coping with some higher degradation. Could well be.
There has to be some sand on the track as well for good measure. But a headwind down the pit straight, that means your slipstream effect is better, the DRS is better. We're going to see, I think, more overtaking down into turn 1 because of that, and we'll see the cars sliding around. But of course, you're just flying these cars through the air, basically. They're like aircraft, but the wings are pushing the car into the track instead of lifting them off the ground. And that's why they're susceptible to crosswinds and generally how windy it is.
And look how much the wind has picked up since qualifying as well. 5 kilometres an hour difference in the wind speed between last night, when the cars were last on the track, and tonight, when we're going to get going in just a few moments' time with Charles Leclerc leading us off on the formation lap. Every single driver on the soft compound tyre except Robert Kubica, the man who starts last, who's on the medium compound tyre. You spoke to Charles Leclerc on the grid, Martin. I am staggered that a man so young can be so calm on what is such a big night in his racing career.
And he does look calm, and he's very methodical. He's clear in his head what he's thinking. Interesting that Lewis Hamilton bolted off the dummy grid to get in Leclerc's mirrors there and test him out a little bit. But they've got a very, this looks like a fun lap. in many respects that they're, you know, just getting ready for the race, but it's a very prescriptive thing they have to do now to warm up the brakes and tyres.
Worst tailwind is corner 6, 25 kph, so expect even other people making mistakes there.
Yeah, and if you brake into a tailwind, you've got to brake earlier, but it's, you know, how much are you braking earlier? That's the key thing.
So on board then with Lewis Hamilton. Bahrain ranking as one of the top 5, or in the top 5 easiest circuits on which to overtake. An average of 46 passes per race in this turbo hybrid era, so from 2014 onwards, and he will certainly hope that we continue on with that statistic tonight, because he's got at least 2 overtakes to produce during this race.
Indeed. It's, the circuit looks magnificent at night, doesn't it? It's very pristine here. Oh, happy Mother's Day to everybody back in the UK. I think it's Channel Islands, Isle of Man, Ireland, especially to my mum, Alma. I hope she's having a good day. I'll give her a call a little bit later on.
Beats sending her a card, doesn't it? Giving her a plug on national TV.
And Zach Brown there talking, of course, to David Beckham. Didn't see Guy Ritchie in there anyway, did you?
I didn't see Guy Ritchie on the grid walk, Martin. Charles Leclerc then, the 99th driver, no mistaking him whatsoever, to take pole position in what is the 999th Formula One World Championship Grand Prix. As Mick Schumacher, who was on pole for the F2 sprint race a little earlier on, Ferrari Academy driver, of course, watching on from the back of the garage.
So now Leclerc's got to the grid quite early with his teammate right behind him. Lewis backing them up just slightly. He's got to stay within 10 car lengths of the lead driver, who becomes the de facto safety car around there and controls the pace. So the 2 Mercedes stringing out, it looks to me like they want to get to the grid just a little bit later than the Ferraris. There's a cat and mouse game going. I'm pretty sure about it, in the banter in the paddock about how many stops there might be today, and just generally I think Mercedes know they've got a real race on their hands today. Mercedes
quite happy to admit that this should be a 2-stop race, but since when did any Formula One team want to admit what the strategy was before they went into the race? 2 weeks ago in Melbourne, that man there, Mattia Binotto, was shaking his head. Ferrari's pace had disappeared. They've brought it back and some so far here in Bahrain this weekend.
Leclerc's pointing slightly left, look, down at the front there, as if he wants to head completely down the left-hand side of the track. Slightly surprised by that he's not gearing up to cover. You can see his car is pointing slightly left, can't you, from there, from onboard Lewis Hamilton.
And he's got 346 metres to navigate into turn 1. There's a lot more dust on that left-hand side of the grid as well. Pole position for Leclerc. What happens from here on in? It's lights out, away we go. I think Vettel got the better of the start of the Ferrari, and Valtteri Bottas neck and neck with Lewis Hamilton as well. It is Sebastian Vettel out of the lead from Charles Leclerc. The 2 Mercedes with Bottas on the inside, going wheel to wheel through the first corner. Leclerc gets a little bit squeezed. Sebastian Vettel leads from Leclerc, from Bottas and Hamilton. Then comes Max Verstappen and the fast-starting Carlos Sainz ahead of Kevin Magnussen. A lot of sparks there. Someone's got some damage, and I think it's a racing point of Sergio Perez in the midfield. We'll find out in a moment.
Bottas after second.
Valtteri Bottas ahead of Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton now pressing. Leclerc has gone from pole down to third. It's not been the start that he would have wanted. Luckily, as he locks up the inside line, almost collides with the front wing of Lewis Hamilton.
Leclerc's really struggling everywhere for grip. Turn in, braking, everything, as if he hasn't got his tyre temperatures and pressures where he needs them to be. Really struggling through these first few corners.
I think it's Lance Stroll in the racing point that's having a few problems. I can see Sergio Perez right towards the rear. Lance Stroll has gone down into the bottom 2 in this race at the moment. Romain Grosjean is running plumb last, if indeed he's running at all.
So no DRS, no opening of the rear wing until the end of the second lap, of course.
And down the long straights towards the final corner comes Sebastian.
Pace, as he has had, it must be said, through free practice. He's had a 10th or 2 over his teammate, generally speaking. What are Ferrari going to do now?
I just wonder, we'll see the race start in a moment, Martin, but did Sebastian Vettel have an advantage on what is possibly a cleaner side, on what's normally the dirtier side?
He got away.
We go, guys.
His initial getaway was not good, was it? Because the Mercedes was already on his tail. So I think the initial release, but down the pit straight now, Leclerc is going to have the slipstream on his teammate, and he's going to open his rear wing for more than 20 kilometers per hour advantage. And I'll be very surprised if he's not close to his teammate when he gets down to the braking zone.
New regulations for 2019 to make it easier to follow the car in front, and maybe we're seeing the benefit of that tonight as well. 3 DRS zones slipstreaming as well. They're into a headwind at the moment. Look how Leclerc is gaining on Vettel, passing Vettel, into the lead goes Charles Leclerc, but has he gone too deep? Has he gone too deep? No, just gets back onto the racing line ahead of his teammates.
And now it's Vettel who'll get the DRS down into turn 4. This is a proper race.
And
nobody's yielding at all.
Very nearly, Martin went into the back of his teammate there. Such was the speed Vettel was getting under DRS.
It's early in the season, the championship's all to play for. Both Mercedes drivers going at it together, both Ferrari drivers. No quarter asked and no quarter given there.
So there's Sebastian Vettel's start. You're right, he did get a much better getaway in the second phase as well. Already he's clear of Charles Leclerc, behind Bottas and Hamilton going wheel to wheel into turn 1.
So Leclerc and Vettel so close together. Remember back in Melbourne 2 weeks ago, they nearly collected each other there. This was also a much better start there from Vettel. He's thinking, got this one covered.
But listen to the wheel spin as well. Even in 5th gear he was getting it.
Very calm, very steady, cautious almost, but it's got the job done. But eventually, there we go.
We're on board with Lance Stroll, and he is going to make contact with the Haas right there. So Grosjean goes off. Stroll gives him a bit of a tap. They both end up in the pits with damage, and Alex Albon watching the view from the Toro Rosso. Is that a racing incident? The stewards are looking at it, Martin.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any penalties from that.
So this is Hamilton on Leclerc.
Leclerc was struggling for grip. He locks his wheels into air. They nearly touched too. He just did not have his tyres prepared for whatever Leclerc for the start was expecting more grip. It was all over the show, wasn't he?
And that's Lando Norris at the rear there. You could see running wide as Max Verstappen got rather interested in that battle for a few moments as well. Verstappen currently 9 seconds down on the race leader after a little banging match with Carlos Sainz.
I cannot believe this guy. I cannot believe it.
Sainz not happy with the treatment there.
No, and that's going to be suspension damage and race ending, of course. And what happened was Verstappen hit the curb and bounced back onto the track. You've got a lot of undamped spring in these front tyres. You've got a big sidewall on Formula One tyres, and it literally bounced across the road.
That's Albon and Gasly going for it, down in 12th and 13th place. Danny Kvyat right behind them, out in front. Charles Leclerc has a 1.1 second lead over his teammate Sebastian Vettel. Already great entertainment from the two Ferraris. Nico Rosberg with us, world champion once, of course. Nico, you know what it's like to have a battle with your teammate in Bahrain.
Yeah, no, I mean, let's applaud Ferrari. It's so cool to see that they're allowed to race. Great action there, and Charles is just absolutely flying today. He's in great shape. And let me just talk about Max Verstappen as well quickly. I mean, the message there was clear. Never try to overtake Max Verstappen. And he just did a brilliant job in defending there. And yeah, unfortunately it went wrong for Carlos with his car after that.
But he's back in the race, Carlos Sainz, so maybe it was just the front wing that was broken rather than the suspension, which is very good news. He's back in the race, and he's done the fastest lap so far.
Meanwhile, Kevin Magnussen's gone from 6th down to 9th, lost about 4 seconds on the previous lap, and in fact is now down in 10th place behind Sergio Perez. I wonder what's happened to him. Kimi Räikkönen under pressure at the moment from Nico Hülkenberg.
How is the front wing? How is the front wing? I don't know. You have to tell me. Okay.
That's exactly the answer I was expecting.
You can't even see it.
You can't see it. It's about 2.5 metres in front of you. It's 2 metres wide, and you have no idea. I think what they're trying to say is, have you got understeer? Is the car sliding? Have you damaged your front wing? But of course, they've got any number of sensors on the car back for the pits to let them know if the downforce is registering correctly.
Well, so there's Magnussen going wide at turn 10. Räikkönen slips down the inside there. Magnussen comes back at Kimi Räikkönen, but all to no avail because Magnussen's down in 10th, Räikkönen's in 7th. We have located Paul de Resta at race control. Paul.
Yes, Crofty, just what I was going to say with the Sainz Verstappen incident. I think if I was a steward looking at it, although Sainz was past Verstappen on the brakes, he didn't quite leave enough of a car on the inside, and what that pushed Max into was bouncing across the curb, like Martin said, and into him. And unfortunately, Sainz coming off worse when McLaren were doing so well.
Yeah, unfortunately, two feisty young drivers didn't want to give any distance there, but I find it quite interesting how close Lewis Hamilton is to the back of the two Ferraris, and now lapping more quickly. This race is a long way from over.
Getting closer as well, now 3 seconds. Charles Leclerc to Lewis Hamilton, first, second and third. Sebastian Vettel plumb in the middle, second and a half back. You don't want to be locking up too often if you're the race leader, Charles Leclerc. It's not going to help your tyres or your winning position.
That's Charles' Achilles heel at the moment, those little errors. We saw it last year at Sauber from time to time. We've seen it. We saw it in Melbourne as well, a little trip across the grass. Just a momentary lapse of concentration maybe, but control definitely.
Magnussen's got no race pace at the moment, Martin. He's been swallowed up by Lando Norris. He might get swallowed up by Pierre Gasly here as well. Three of them trying to go in all line astern into turn 4. Norris comes out in front ahead of Magnussen. Gasly still biding his time. The stewards are looking at that incident between Verstappen and Sainz as we look at this battle between Gasly and Magnussen. And the Haas, very much the struggling part of that trio. And now look, there's Albon and there's Kvyat, and after those comes Giovinazzi and the Alfa Romeo.
The only thing that would save Sainz's evening now would be a safety car, because he did just stay on the lead lap.
So, Karun Chandhok in the pit lane for us tonight. Down to you.
Yeah, Crofty, just looking at the strategies here, because you're down to lap 10. Checo Perez, by the way, has come in. He's the first of the stoppers for an early pit stop. The leaders don't yet have a gap. Daniel Ricciardo in 6th position, 15 seconds behind. So if they pit, they're going to come out in traffic. Do Mercedes with Lewis Hamilton now only 1.1 behind Sebastian Vettel. Do they blink first and go for an undercut? They need to wait, though, for that gap to open up.
If they go for the undercut, Martin, Hamilton's got a new set of soft tyres available. Bottas has got a set that's only done half a lap, pretty much. They should be able to extend that second stint if they go with a soft tyre and not be suffering at the end if they want the overcut.
They certainly have got an ace there, haven't they, in their hands. We're starting to see quite a lot of pit stops now. Raikkonen has been in. We've got Norris in, Gasly, Albon for good measure. Perez has already left the pits.
I tell you what, if we're on lap 10, already starting a few pit stops, then Mercedes might be right here. This should be a two-stop race.
Yeah.
Difficult to see anyone making a one-stop last effectively. The stewards have decided, by the way, no further action or no investigation necessary. Grosjean and Stroll racing incident down at turn 2 on the opening lap.
Yeah, I think Lance, if he sees that, he'll think that was kind of inevitable. That Grosjean was going to turn in. Grosjean could have given him a bit more space if he indeed knew he was there. The stewards look at something like that and think it's the start of a Grand Prix.
Yeah.
I think the ruling is different in those circumstances when they're all wheel to wheel, but I think quite correctly, no driver has been deemed to be at fault. They're really struggling now, aren't they, into turn 10 as the front tyres are beginning to give up.
Hamilton complaining on the radio that his car is still oversteering to a certain extent. We saw the lock up there, and we just saw Gasly and Albon coming into the pits. I think Toro Rosso were trying, Red Bull I should say, were trying to get the jump there on Alex Albon. Not happened.
And that cost Lewis over a second.
Yeah.
A little misdemeanor. But Verstappen's all right in there as well. 9.8 seconds covers the top 5 still. Let's not count him out for a solid result if he can keep his tyres together nicely in the Red Bull.
And this man leading the race then, Charles Leclerc, and this is how he regained his lead. He lost it right at the start, down into turn 1. DRS very, very effective, late on the brakes as well as you can do into a headwind, of course, and sailing past his teammate.
He did well to slow that down. I really thought he was going to be heading off the track, but Vettel...
so did his manager.
Yeah, Vettel covered the line, didn't he? Vettel was defending hard. It wasn't... he didn't move out of the way to let him through, rest assured.
Right, Norris comes in, Magnussen comes in. Magnussen just out ahead of Pierre Gasly, who's got past Alex Albon, and that was the McLaren and the Haas covering off that early stop by the Red Bull and the Toro Rosso as well. And Gasly having to lock up a bit there. That's given Albon a chance to try and get past the Red Bull. They are going wheel to wheel into turn 4, and Alex Albon comes cuts across Pierre Gasly and retakes the place that he lost on the previous lap, 16th place. But they've stopped, have Magnussen, Albon, Gasly and Norris ahead of them in 14th. No further action. Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz, the stewards, letting the drivers race tonight. No penalties so far. Karun, down to you.
Yeah, Crofty, into turn 10, they've got a tailwind that's hurting them, and that's why we're seeing these drivers make those mistakes. Nico Hülkenberg, by the way, quick line on him, up to 7th place. From the way down, he was 17th after that engine mapping problem. Just 2 seconds behind Ricciardo. Max Verstappen and Red Bull have blinked, by the way. That's the noise of the Red Bull coming into the pits right behind me. The gap is starting to open up. There's a gap window of about 8 seconds between Kvyat and Hülkenberg. So Ferrari could pit early now and bring the race leader in and get some free air.
Interesting. Thank you, Karun. Medium tyres going on to the Red Bull. They can go to the end of the race as through goes Kvyat and Giovinazzi. And you can see Kimi Raikkonen in the background, who stopped in the Alpha. So that window that Karun was talking about, basically meaning that they can get Max Verstappen in, change his tyres and come out still ahead of the Alfa Romeo.
35 laps, a long way to go though, isn't it, on a set of tyres around this track. It's a very coarse surface here to help against the inevitable sand that it often gets on it.
So, yeah, Gasly just had a little problem with his rear left tyre. That left him stationary for a little bit longer than he would have wanted. Hence, Albon came out of the pits ahead of the Red Bull. Charles Leclerc leading, Sebastian Vettel second, Lewis Hamilton, he's starting to gain on Sebastian Vettel once again. He's taken a tenth or so out of Vettel's advantage on this lap. Lost that half a second, of course, on lap 8, but since then he's been closing up and closing up and closing up, and they are ready down at Mercedes, I would imagine, to bring Valtteri Bottas in, Martin, to cover off that Verstappen pit stop. And that's Danny Kvyat going the wrong way. And is that down at turn 11 at the end of the DRS zone?
Yes, it is.
Maybe the tailwind has caught out Danny Kvyat. In comes Valtteri Bottas. Got to be a sensible decision, that, to cover off the Red Bull.
Yes, absolutely. They've got to cover Verstappen, as you say. And he also goes on to the medium tyre. Will they get it to the end? That's a very tall order. But Hamilton keeping Vettel extremely honest.
Yeah, he's got very, very close indeed. Bottas trundling at 80 kilometres an hour down the pit lane. I'm just looking out to see if he's still ahead of Max Verstappen or not, or if Red Bull have got their man ahead of Bottas by performing the undercut, coming in first and trying to leapfrog the man ahead of you by making an early pit stop. I don't think it's quite worked out. Bottas stays ahead of Max Verstappen. And we can watch here and see what happened with Giovinazzi and Danny Kvyat. Well, it was Giovinazzi driving into the Russian.
Yeah, Giovinazzi puts his hand up. Is it to say sorry, or is it to say, what on earth do you think you're doing? But I suspect it's sorry, and he might find himself with the stewards looking at that one.
Oh no, Max Verstappen is now ahead of Valtteri Bottas. I think Bottas came out of the pits. Just looking at our GPS tracker here, it indicated that Bottas was ahead of Verstappen, but somewhere on this lap Verstappen's managed to get past and up into 5th place as the Mercedes pit crew are out once again. Lewis Hamilton's coming in for a stop, and they're out at Ferrari as well. We're on board with Valtteri Bottas trying to get past Max Verstappen. Let's go down to Karun in the pit lane.
Indeed, that Ferrari, Charles Leclerc coming in, Lewis Hamilton right behind him. If Ferrari get it right, they should get him clearly ahead and into a 3-bit of traffic. Leclerc on his way, Hamilton a slightly quicker stop, I think, Crofty.
But that sacrifices Vettel, surely, because Hamilton will be quicker on his fresh tyres. They can't double stack the Ferraris, they were too close together. So Vettel will now lose track position, I imagine.
And Lewis Hamilton going on to the soft compound tyre. Mercedes 2 stopping at the very least. There goes Valtteri Bottas on Max Verstappen. Don't forget, Hamilton's on a brand new set of soft compound tyres. Verstappen stays ahead of Bottas in 5th place. He's just set the new fastest lap of the race as well. Sebastian Vettel leads from Daniel Ricciardo. They have an exclamation mark between Giovinazzi and Kvyat. They're under investigation for that incident where the Italian hit Kvyat's Toro Rosso down at turn 11.
Yeah, Giovinazzi might take a little bit of pain for that. We'll see. But it's interesting that a slow puncture has changed the face of this race.
Yeah.
We thought it was cunning tactics, and it's forced everybody possibly into a 2-stop to react to that. But Leclerc nicely out front now from Daniel Ricciardo, who was 5 seconds slower on that previous lap. Of course, he hasn't stopped yet, as Danny Rick in the Renault.
This has worked out beautifully, that first round of pit stops for Leclerc, Martin. He's 3.89 seconds or so gap between Leclerc and Hamilton, but this time his teammate's not in the middle of that as well. It's not Ferrari's doing, is it, I suppose, really, that Hamilton managed the undercut and Vettel was put in trouble. They had to respond, but worked out beautifully for Leclerc.
Yes, it did. And when they told Vettel he's racing 2 cars, I think they meant the 2 Mercedes, because he wasn't that far in front of Bottas when he came out. And he was quite clearly behind Hamilton.
So Bottas has got his hands full with Max Verstappen, although he does look to have the race pace at the moment. Giovinazzi is in the top 9, but he is yet to stop in this race. He's the only driver, apart from Daniel Ricciardo, who is yet to make a pit stop. Lando Norris running in 10th place in a very tight, congested midfield battle. George Russell running down in 17th place at the moment, with Stroll and Grosjean, who made early pit stops behind him, and Carlos Sainz, who had trouble as well. Giovinazzi does come in for a pit stop, goes on to the soft compound tyres. We're on lap 17 of 57 here in the Kingdom of Bahrain, and if the next 40 laps are anything like the first 17, well, I'm all in favour of these new regulations and a third DRS zone here tonight. It's been brilliant racing.
Yeah, it's the sort of race we were expecting, because we knew in the race conditions we were going to see Mercedes much closer to Ferrari, and I think Hamilton, albeit on brand new softs, of course, is sitting there very comfortably in 2nd place at the moment.
Kevin Magnussen has been passed once again by Pierre Gasly this time around. That has 6 on the grid, Martin. Whatever is wrong with that car tonight, the race pace has just disappeared for it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's hurting his tyres or whether he's carrying an issue.
Behind him, he's got Alex Albon, who's going to line up an overtaking move, I think, very, very soon indeed. So, after the excitement of the first round of pit stops, let's see if Karun Chandhok's caught his breath a little bit down in the pit lane.
I'll tell you what, you need a second to catch your breath, don't you? It's been amazing so far, Grand Prix. Just look at Daniel Ricciardo, currently in 4th place. Their strategy's not working out. He's in the 39s now, lapping a long way off. Even his teammate, Nico Hülkenberg, last couple of laps, over 2.5 seconds quicker. And this isn't going to work out for Daniel. They're the only ones, I think, trying to stretch to a one-stopper, but it's not going to play. You see, he's got Bottas all over the back of it. Lewis Hamilton, by the way, has found a good chunk of pace on this fresh set of tyres. He's now matching the Ferraris lap for lap, 4.2 seconds behind Leclerc. It looks like we're going to have a second round of stops, guys, but on lap 35 to 40. So if Vettel, now 2.7 behind Hamilton, can get close up, Ferrari will have the opportunity to reverse the undercut.
And that is Romain Grosjean. He is out of the race for the 2nd time this season. In 2 races, Romain Grosjean is forced to retire, and Gunther Steiner, not a happy man on the Haas pit wall, and there's a 5-second time penalty for Danny Kvyat for speeding in the pit lane. This, I would imagine, is why Grosjean's been retired. The initial contact was with Lance Stroll, and obviously there's some damage resulting from that.
Yeah, I think they fully expected that they were going to score a handful of points today, did the Haas team, and it's really not going well at all. There's one out and the other in 12th place.
Well, he was. He's in 13th now. He's just been overtaken again, has Kevin Magnussen. 400 to 1 shot before the start of the race. I can see why now.
Anybody you put any money on that?
Absolutely no idea whatsoever. There's £5 I'll never get back. There's Valtteri Bottas ahead of Max Verstappen, ahead of Nico Hülkenberg, one of the big gainers in the opening few laps. And well, you can see the toll that engine mapping issue took on Hülkenberg's qualifying yesterday. Knocked out in Q1, but bang on the pace now.
Okay, dude, lots of people ahead have committed to 2 stops, so let's make 1 stop work.
That might just explain Kevin Magnussen's pace in this race. He has, he has stopped, and he's gone onto the medium tyres, and he's taking it nice and steady in the hope that 1 less pit stop, which loses you about 23 seconds of your lap time, can get him into a point-scoring finish. We're asking him to do quite a bit, as you mentioned, Martin. Out in front, by the way, Charles Leclerc on the medium tyre, Lewis Hamilton on the soft compound tyre. Leclerc is actually finding a chunk of pace at the moment that Hamilton doesn't seem to be able to respond to.
No, he suddenly falling back into the clutches of this man, Sebastian Vettel.
Who's also on the medium compound tyre, which allegedly is about 9/10 of a second slower per lap when you take the new tyres against the new tyres, but it's suiting the conditions at the moment. And obviously here in the night time, wind gusting around, a bit of cloud during the day. This track's a lot cooler than we've seen it for this weekend.
And must be said, with Bottas and Verstappen squabbling a little bit. Oh, that's very, very wide there, Lewis. And you've got to be careful, you don't pick up punctures out there too with debris. It's a tricky corner. You get in a little bit too deep and you're already carrying too much speed at the apex. Nothing you can do there. You're going to run wide. But it's turning into a 3-horse race now.
It is that, and it's probably the prancing horse that's favouring the conditions a little more. Very
almost
wide
up to the gravel, so the curb seems to drag them off the road a little bit more, doesn't it? And then that will have pleased Sebastian Vettel as he emerged through the exit of the corner to see his rival out there.
He lost a second to Charles Leclerc, did Hamilton, and Sebastian Vettel gained on him by a second as well. The stewards are looking at an awful lot tonight, but they've decided that they don't want to take much action because there's still no further action to be taken between Danny Kvyat and Giovinazzi.
I think there's a new way, a new thought, and they've talked to the drivers about it this week at the driver briefing in the end, about let them race, I think was the heading of it, to be a bit easier going and a bit less feisty with their penalties from the steward's office.
So far, it seems to be working as well. On board with Daniel Ricciardo, and I think very much committing down at Renault to a one-stop race, which is something that became quite familiar from the team last year, trying to eke out as long an opening stint as they possibly can. Ricciardo powering away in 6th place. Nico Hülkenberg, his teammate, had stopped a little bit earlier, and Hülkenberg at the moment behind Kimi Räikkönen down in 8th place. Right, let's head down to Karun, down in the pit lane.
Yeah, quick word on Romain Grosjean. You saw him retire. Your suspicions are right, guys. They damaged the floor in that contact with Lance Stroll, so that's why they had to retire the car. Just a quick line of...
Alfa Romeo, Hülkenberg is up into 7th place. Nice move there from a man making his 158th race starts, equal to Martin Brundle in Formula 1, and keeping Kimi Räikkönen, who is in his 293rd race start, at bay as they head down the hill, and Räikkönen's not giving that one up.
Yeah, Hülkenberg gave Räikkönen a fair old squeeze down into turn 1. I think he just about left him the width of an Alfa Romeo Formula 1 car there, which you're obliged to do. But that looks like it's job done then for now anyway for Nico Hülkenberg.
You and Nico Hülkenberg, the same amount of Grand Prix.
Incredible, isn't it?
Both looking as fresh-faced as you ever did there. Leclerc leads from Hamilton and from Vettel. What do you reckon to Karun's point there, Martin, about Valtteri Bottas? Is he trying to manage his pace a little bit?
I'm in big trouble, man. It's lap 21. My rears are nearly done. Okay, copy, Lewis.
Rather get the feeling Hamilton isn't trying to manage his pace too much. You certainly get the feeling that Sebastian Vettel is closing, and you can see the DRS assistance that he's got now as well.
And I think putting the brand new, we thought it was a bit of an ace in their pocket, the brand new set of red mark soft tyres on, hasn't actually been very good, has it? They've faded very quickly.
Not at all. Vettel having a little look there into turn 4. But the longer these laps go, he's going to get more and more opportunities, you think, because Hamilton just appears to be a bit of a sitting duck in terms of out-and-out lap pace. He's now 6.2 seconds behind the race leader, looking ever better for Charles Leclerc out in front.
And you can see just turning in there to turn 8, just how much better front end Vettel had on the Ferrari, as Hamilton's really struggling to get the car to turn and then to grip into the traction zone on the way out of the corner.
So another DRS zone here for Sebastian Vettel, and you'll see that Mercedes getting an awful lot closer as we head down that back straight. Runs parallel with the drag racing strip here at the Sakir International Circuit. And in that out-and-out drag race, Mercedes just holding off Ferrari for the moment.
And every time we've gone on board with the driver into turn 11, they've tippy-toed into that. That's where the tailwind is. You can tell they're leaving quite a margin sailing in there.
So the rears are nearly done, says Lewis Hamilton, who managed to pit on lap 13. We're now on lap 23. So 10 laps on those soft compound tyres, and they're not looking in very good condition, or feeling in very good condition, for the reigning world champion. Sebastian Vettel's coming back at him again. Hamilton a little bit too far ahead for Vettel to attack, but he's going to be so much closer now coming out of turn 3.
Yeah, Hamilton too wide in 1, that makes it tighter for him in 2. We're going to have DRS sitting on board the Ferrari. Hamilton's going to have to go right to cover us off. Now we're going to coast around the outside. Job done, as long as we stay within the bounds of the racetrack, which he just about does. And nicely done there. Vettel had so much more grip. But Hamilton, as soon as you're wide in 1, turns 2 and 3 just fall apart as well.
That was the thing. Was that DRS just not needed into turn 4? Did it become too powerful at all? I'd suggest no, because Vettel got alongside. He didn't get the overtake done before the corner. And I'm a sitting duck here, guys, says Lewis Hamilton. He didn't get the overtake done, Martin, before the apex of the corner. He still had to work quite hard for it.
Yeah, I still think it's doing a bit too... It's too long anyway up there. They need to trim that DRS zone or get rid of it.
Well, might be a better compromise, just trim it a little bit. Toto Wolff looking a little bit rueful there, and probably because of this. Hamilton went to defend on the inside. Vettel's ahead at this stage, goes a little bit wider, and then has to cut across.
Leaves him racing room on the inside, especially as he doesn't want contact and a puncture of his own, of course. So, all sensible stuff from both of them. And Vettel can now set about his young teammate, who's half the pit straight ahead of him.
So they started 1-2 on the grid, and we're back in that order once again. Leclerc ahead of Vettel, and the man who started third, Lewis Hamilton, has DRS to keep tabs on Sebastian Vettel, who locks up a little bit there and might just fancy his chances, Hamilton, if he can get a good getaway from turn 3 of getting that place back again.
No hope. He's got no grip. Hamilton's got no grip in turn 2. He was fighting the car just as he needed to be squirting the throttle. He was having to get out of it.
So, Paul di Resta down at Sky Race Control. What have you got for us?
Yeah, Crofty, I'm just watching everybody. It's on the soft tyre, and what's happening, there's a runner out of front left, and they just can't get the car to rotate. Hamilton was lazy off the last corner, which allowed the challenge, obviously, for Vettel to get by at turn 4, because he just turned into the first corner, didn't lock the inside front, and just understeered wide, which gave Vettel to pounce on him. But Vettel's under a bit of pressure here, so Hamilton maybe has a little bit of something still left.
Two Renaults getting close together. Ricardo on a one-stop strategy. Hasn't been in the pits yet. Lap time's horrible at the moment. In the late 1:39, he's going to have to let his teammate through, who's in the 1:37s on fresher tyres.
And Hamilton keeping Sebastian Vettel honest as they head up the hill to the highest part of this circuit, where they'll get hit very nicely by a crosswind as they turn right, and that's what has kept Lewis Hamilton in touch on this lap, that lock-up into turn 1 for Sebastian Vettel.
What Vettel did there was realising he'd under-rotated, they call it, locking up we call it, and got off the brakes. He'd rather run wide than flat spot the tyre, but Lewis just had no grip to do anything with it.
Down the main straight once again. Lewis Hamilton is out of DRS range.
Yeah, didn't have it, did he?
No, so he kept Sebastian Vettel honest, but then by the time they crossed the line, the detection zone, there was more than a second between the Ferrari and the Mercedes, and Vettel can probably concentrate a bit more now about his teammate Charles Leclerc, who is 8.2 seconds out in the lead. And I wonder how he's feeling now. 24 laps completed. We're on lap 25. It's been harem scarum stuff, but he's back out in the lead again.
And Renault pitted Ricardo, which solves the problem of the two Renaults being close on the track. So finally, Daniel Ricciardo will get a fresh set of boots.
Just behind, by the way, Nico Hülkenberg, Lando Norris is starting to get a bit close to Kimi Räikkönen as well. The only teenager on the grid against the oldest man on the grid, and I think we might be seeing Norris sizing up an overtaking opportunity in a few moments' time as well. They're just heading down through turns 6 and 7 at the moment.
Yeah, Kimi doesn't look like it, doesn't drive like it, but he's more than twice as old as Lando.
Still is the only man on the grid who was born in the 1970s. What a decade, eh? They're like flared trousers and brown shirts. This is Lando Norris. That's a lock up there from Kimi Räikkönen. Norris is now well within touching distance of the Alfa Romeo. Another good qualifying for Lando Norris in the top 10 once again. McLaren actually with 2 cars in the top 10 on the grid for the first time since Malaysia in 2017, having an excellent weekend before Carlos Sainz, who's just pitted, by the way, had contact with Max Verstappen. Norris running in the points at the moment. They've gone to the hard tyre there for for Carlos Sainz.
We've seen those much this weekend, have we?
Not at all.
In fact, most drivers had either 1 set or max 2 sets of those coming into the event.
Well, that's we'll just run that to the end of the race, and if we get a safety car, then we can close right up. Other people might pit, and we can stay out. Here comes Lando Norris on Kimi Räikkönen down the main straight to about 205 miles an hour. Under braking down the inside goes Lando Norris on Kimi Räikkönen. Räikkönen clatters the curb for good measure as well. Lando Norris moves up into 7th place.
So does Räikkönen get the DRS?
Oh, yes, he does. I thought for 2 seconds he'd actually got a bit of DRS there, but if he did, it shot a lot earlier. And Lando Norris is Norris is certainly open.
Yeah, I thought Kimi was going to get it, but the detection point, of course, down there is
it's just around
it's the same one, isn't it? It's the same one, of course.
Yeah, right. That makes a lot of sense. Kimi didn't get DRS, as the replay proves. Yep. On his own at the moment, Lewis Hamilton, you can see the Ferrari getting ahead of him. And behind Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, around about 8.6 seconds further back, lapping faster than Max Verstappen, who's running a very lonely race in 5th at the moment. And a very lonely race being run by Charles Leclerc as well. Not that he'll care too much. He's got an 8-second gap to his teammate as well. Lap 27 of 57 here. Alex Albon has just pitted once again, dropped down into 15th place, and behind his Toro Rosso teammate Danny Kvyat. So what was expected, Martin, of high wear rate on these tyres is certainly coming true tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. The wind and the sand, and it's a very abrasive surface intentionally. So as I said earlier on, if you build a racetrack in the desert, expect to be a bit of sand around. So it is a very open surface that gives the tyres a hard time. And it's the harder end of the scale of tyres that they bring here anyway.
Not been resurfaced, this track, since it was originally built in 2004 as well. We've seen a lot of resurfacing. And of course the tyres with a narrower gauge on them than we had last year, as Robert Kubica gets lapped by the race leader Charles Leclerc.
Kubica and Russell within 2.5 seconds of each other. It's a stronger race for Robert Kubica here than it was in Melbourne.
It certainly is. Yeah, he's had quite a tussle with his teammate George Russell, actually. Russell's just pitted, so Kubica moves up into 16th place. These are worrying times for Williams in terms of their competitiveness on the track, but Sir Patrick Head has been drafted in as a consultant to try and help out things in the factory and see if he can't find a solution to their problems, the fundamental issue that George Russell was talking about after the race in Australia.
Sir Patrick Head, a very no-nonsense gentleman. It'll be very interesting what he can achieve there. Probably quite a lot of stuff to unravel.
Where do you start? Once you find out where you need to start, then you can kind of get the job done. Talking of starts, this was Sebastian Vettel's getaway on the right-hand side of the screen that got him ahead of Charles Leclerc right from the off. At this stage, it all started going a bit wrong for the young man from Monaco.
Yeah, and once again, Bottas getting the better start as well of the two Mercedes. But I think what's significant here, despite his tender years, Leclerc, he didn't panic at this point. I mean, he dropped to 3rd place, was under pressure all the way around the first 8-9 corners before he could find grip. There he is.
They did touch.
They did just touch, didn't
Hamilton
they?
and Leclerc.
Yeah. But Leclerc clapped his head, sorted it all out, had a really scruffy half lap, and then finds himself in the lead by 8.3 seconds.
Could have gone very wrong indeed for Charles Leclerc. It did go wrong for Romain Grosjean. You can see the damage there to his rear left tyre. You can see the sparks coming from underneath Lance Stroll's racing point as well. Stroll was the man that hit Grosjean. Grosjean the only one to retire from this race so far. We've got 19 running after 28 racing laps, and Carlos Sainz Lance Stroll, George Russell and Robert Kubica, the 4 cars that have been lapped. And the top 3 out in front, you can see that Hamilton on the soft compound tyre definitely had to stop again because he's not run 2 different compounds. The Ferraris could go to the end of the race, but it's unlikely. And they've all been 14 or 15 laps on those tyres so far.
Yeah, I think they're doing a bit of time.
Happening here, when did Carlos... Oh, they're coming out at Red Bull, which I assume means that Max Verstappen's coming into the pits. I was just about to say, Carlos Sainz must have pitted a little more recently than Verstappen as well. Such is the difference in pace between cars trying to unlap themselves. Red Bull have pulled Verstappen out of that potential problem. But once again, Martin, does this now start to trigger a few earlier pit stops further up the road?
Long stop again, wasn't it, there? So
4.7 seconds.
Yeah. And I don't sense that Red Bull have unlocked these new regulations aerodynamically yet. They've really not had the incredible pace I thought they would.
Interestingly, Renault cover off that Verstappen pit stop as well by pitting Hülkenberg.
And of course that's dropped Verstappen behind another car. He doesn't really need to be behind Kimi Räikkönen.
See the harvesting going on with a blinking red light from the Alfa Romeo on board with Max Verstappen now.
Great shot.
I wonder, surely he's close enough to have a go.
Up the inside into 8.
He's going to have a go, isn't he, Max Verstappen? Don't normally see too many overtakes here, but Verstappen is going for it because Räikkönen was struggling with not much grip whatsoever. Verstappen on a fresh set of tyres thinks, I can't get stuck behind the Alfa. It's not going to happen.
So what are we going to see? I think we're going to see here a front wheel issue. Front left.
But at least it went out, slower stop, but it went out with everything attached. That's the main thing there. Christian Horner with us live on the Red Bull pit wall. First of all, Max Verstappen's pit stop. Christian, these things happen from time to time.
Yeah, we've had the fastest one and then obviously somewhere from the fastest one just the front left an issue there, so waiting for the feedback on that.
Were you getting a touch nervous when you saw that pink car trying to unlap itself against Max?
Well, it's a different driver in it, I suppose, but it's just uncomfortable when you're in that situation. So, you know, we're struggling a bit for grip out there at the moment. You can hear probably Max's comments. So, obviously, he's now stopped and those tyres. Hopefully, it's the end of the race.
Do you think Bottas is vulnerable to you? Do you think you've got a chance there, or are you looking at 5th?
I think he'd have to have a lot of deg. I mean, he's obviously going to have to run most likely the red of the softer of the 2 compounds. So our only opportunity would be if he got into serious deg. We're just really struggling to generate the temperatures and the grip out of these tyres at the moment.
Thanks ever so much, Christian, as Kimi Räikkönen comes into pit and comes out behind not 1 but 2 of the Toro Rossos. Danny Kvyat ahead of Alex Albon at the moment, battling for 12th and 13th. But look, Räikkönen's put himself right at DRS zone here.
It looks like trouble somewhere, doesn't it?
Danny Kvyat and Kimi Räikkönen scrapping away on the track as Lewis Hamilton comes in for a pit stop and Räikkönen tries to go down the inside of Alex Albon. Hamilton's pit stop, 2.5 seconds. Consistent job being done by the Mercedes pit crew there. Albon stays ahead of Räikkönen, but then Räikkönen gets a much better exit on those fresher tyres. He's now got Danny Kvyat to have a look. Danny Kvyat opens the door, says, do you want to come in, Kimi? And Kimi says, I don't need a second invitation for a party. Thank you very much indeed.
He knows he's got a lot more grip, but that's not normally an overtaking place. Nice job there. 2 corners, 2 Toro Rossos.
He's put himself under pressure, Kvyat, from his teammate as well, because Alex Albon had DRS down that straight, and Albon is away and ahead. Räikkönen up to 12th, Albon 13th, Danny Kvyat down to 14th. Lewis Hamilton pits, comes out behind his teammate Valtteri Bottas, and I'm sure very glad to get off the soft tyres and to get the medium on.
So what will Ferrari do about this? Nobody running out into the pit lane at the moment. Will they choose to cover off Lewis Hamilton?
I get the feeling Ferrari have got 2 or 3 laps to play with here, Martin. Yeah. Such was the advantage Sebastian Vettel had over Lewis Hamilton, around about 8 seconds.
Yeah, it's time he got in the pits, wasn't it? But Ferrari running out now, so they will cover that off. Look at that, look at the grip he's got now, throwing that into T11.
So he's got round about 19 laps or so to throw that Mercedes round the track and to get after those two Ferraris. It's Sebastian Vettel who comes in first, no surprises there, to cover off Mercedes Ferrari not leaving it any longer than they had to get in and get a new set of the medium compound tyre on.
2.3 seconds, good start from the Ferrari boys.
Certainly
Not
was.
the quickest ever, but quick enough.
So Bottas runs through, Mercedes leaving Valtteri Bottas out, so I wonder, as Hamilton comes down the main straight here, they didn't have that much time at all, did they? Hamilton put in a fastest middle sector and a fastest final sector of a lap. Amazing pace that he's suddenly found on those tyres.
And they will definitely bring Leclerc in as well on the next lap. They need to do that to cover this kind of pace off.
Well, I'm just thinking, are Mercedes leaving Bottas out there, Martin? Not to sacrifice a fourth place, which I think is going to be his, barring any safety cars, but could it be a bit of a blockage for Ferrari?
I'm struggling a lot. Understood. Copy.
Right, Leclerc's struggling for grip. Vettel struggling in defence of Lewis Hamilton here. And suddenly, Hamilton's race has just come alive.
Yeah, and I think the car might be better on these yellow marked mediums as well, and Ferrari inevitably are reacting then. They'll bring the leader in this time.
Hamilton's got DRS on Sebastian Vettel. Might be time soon to repay the compliment a little bit. Charles Leclerc into the pits. Valtteri Bottas leads this race.
This needs to be a good stop.
Well, it was, what, 2.3 seconds, wasn't it, for Sebastian Vettel? Are the Ferrari pit crew up to the job? They certainly are. 2.4 seconds for Charles Leclerc. Valtteri Bottas rounds the final corner. Leclerc at 80 kilometres an hour. Down the pit straight he goes. He's come in and he's come out and he's kept hold of the lead. Behind is Valtteri Bottas. Behind him, Sebastian Vettel closing in on him. Lewis Hamilton has just set the fastest lap of this race. Bottas locks up. And his tyres getting to the end of their life. But Hamilton now is going to size up Sebastian Vettel and have a go at the Ferrari, you think. We're on board now with DRS assistance as we head towards turn 4. Hamilton's gaining. Which way is he going to go? The long way round. He's wheel to wheel with Sebastian Vettel. He's almost off the track. They're plunging down the hill. And for one moment, I thought they touched once again. A Ferrari and a Mercedes. Sebastian Vettel just holds on to that third place.
Stunning precision there, and trusting each other. Totally brilliant driving from the pair of them. We need more of that, please. I really enjoyed that. But Hamilton's feeling very punchy on these tyres, and that was incredibly bold to try to go around the outside of turn 4. How they didn't make contact, I'm not quite sure. We're about to find out, aren't we? That was kind of extremely bold, I must say. Look how close it's getting in there. Wow.
While we're watching replays of this, they've now caught up, Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton, with Valtteri Bottas, who I wondered, could he become a bit of a block here for Sebastian Vettel? I don't think he'll do it down the next straight, but there's no DRS on this straight. As he held him up just a little bit to help out Hamilton. I would imagine he'll dive into the pits in a few moments and get out of the way of this, and he does so. Hamilton's got DRS to have another go at Sebastian Vettel. Didn't work out the last time, might work out this time. He's got a bit more distance and a bit more room to work with. They've both got DRS, and Vettel stays ahead.
Through the detection point, Bottas was giving Vettel some DRS. I thought Lewis might be a bit closer to him coming off the final corner. Here we go again.
DRS wide open. This time it's only Hamilton. Vettel wonders where he's going. Hamilton goes round the long way, round the outside once again. He's off the track once again, and Sebastian Vettel's lost it. Coming out of turn 4, Lewis Hamilton gets past and moves up into second place, and Sebastian Vettel is left spinning and disconsolate in the middle of the track.
I think his left rear is damaged. I think he'll have to come in.
And
has he ripped the surface? Has he gone through to the carcass of that left rear tyre? He just gave it a boot full of throttle, and the rear tyres couldn't cope with the demand.
So this is the exit of the corner, and that is a sight that Sebastian Vettel and his fans don't want to see.
Once again, it was Hamilton being adventurous, and
New tyres.
Ambition well ahead of adhesion, and he has damaged that left rear tyre, and his front wing's gone for good measure.
His front wing has gone, the front left tyre damaged, the rear tyres as well, immediately calling to the team to shout box, box, box. Charles Leclerc sets a new fastest lap of the race. Sebastian Vettel's front wing is left by the side of the track. Lewis Hamilton's into second place. And this is how he lost his front wing as the Racing Point unlaps itself.
Yeah, so he's had another incident somewhere then.
Well, here comes the Williams then of Kubica, and there it just goes.
Oh, it's really scary when it does that. So he's clearly damaged the front wing on the curb. Sometimes that gets underneath your front wheels and you just toboggan to the nearest hard thing.
Oh, look how it was oscillating, Martin, before, and you could see the vibrations. George Russell it was in the Williams.
A lot of debris on the track. I wonder if race control will be looking at that, thinking about a virtual safety car or a safety car to clear that away.
I'm sure Michael Massey, the F1 race director, and his team will be looking at that. Of course, his deputy Colin Hayward up there with him as well. 12 seconds stationary time for Sebastian Vettel while they fix that wing, and look what that has done to his race, as not only the Red Bull of Pierre Gasly goes past, but Hülkenberg and Ricciardo as well in the Renaults. Ricciardo locks up and they touch the two Renaults as well, as Hülkenberg squeezes his way past Daniel Ricciardo in the battle for sixth place. There was definitely contact there between the two teammates, and we might get some again because Ricciardo's going for it. Down into turn 4 they run, and Ricciardo just failing to get alongside Nico Hülkenberg, who keeps hold of that sixth place. Leclerc leads, Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen and Pierre Gasly up into fifth place now, with Sebastian Vettel tumbling. Gasly, by the way, and Ricciardo have only stopped the once.
Hülkenberg's tyres 8 laps younger than Ricciardo's. Now they're on different strategies. Front brakes glowing red, over 1,000 degrees Celsius there in the Renault, going down into turn 10. Where can Vettel get back to in this race then? Hülkenberg and Ricciardo is a possibility, maybe Gasly too. He might get back to 6th.
So, second time of asking, Hamilton gets past, no contact whatsoever. The pressure that Hamilton was putting on Vettel, was that the cause of it, or was it
Absolutely.
just one of those things, Martin, that these cars are so sensitive, there's a bit of wind about as well, and it's easy to lose.
They were talking about turn 4, weren't they, about how loose the cars are going to be up there. And also he was getting quite a lot of wash off the Mercedes of Hamilton there. And he gave it a big bootful of throttle and spun up the rear wheels. There it goes. Yeah, you can have horrible accidents if you get on top of your own front wing, that it sort of disintegrate. Oh, you know what's done that? It's the vibration from having damaged the tyre. He's literally shaken the front wing off it.
Yeah, because you can see that band, that big strip on the left-hand side of that left front tyre.
So Norris is his first target then, coming back. I think he could get as high as we've got Hülkenberg in there. Gasly's pitted now. Gasly's actually pitted.
Yeah, he has.
So
Gasly's down as well.
Vettel could get as high as P5.
But he could have finished on the podium. Could at one stage have thought about winning this race. His teammate is still leading this race. We've got a double yellow being waved round about this point of the track. It's all clear now. I assume that was from the debris and the marshals retrieving it.
Pick the front wing up. And, there's not too much rubbish on the track now, is there?
So Vettel's after Norris. Norris is looking in his mirrors, and the young man stays ahead in 7th place at the moment. Doesn't look good on the CV for Sebastian Vettel this evening, the way he lost it, but we're standing here in a commentary box, Martin, where apart from a severe air condition, there's no breeze blowing around at all. Out on that track, it is very, very gusty indeed, and these cars very, very sensitive to what I think is the windiest Bahrain Grand Prix we've seen.
Yeah, so the track's a little bit off camber. Vettel's giving it too much throttle, and I'm sure he was getting some destabilisation from the aero there as well. And round she went.
And here she goes once again. Lando Norris is the orange car in front. It's the red matte paint job of the Ferrari that manages to move up now into 7th place. That was nice and easy. There might be harder battles to come for Sebastian Vettel as he tries to salvage his race.
I think Lando's sensible. There's no point having a fight. It's not really going to be a proper fight. You know that the works Ferrari on a fresh set of tyres. is going to be past you at some point.
Now here we can see once again what happened to the two Renaults. Nico Hülkenberg on the right-hand side cuts right across his teammate, but they're on different strategies.
Well, Daniel locked up his front, so...
What was that? He hit me. I gave him plenty of space.
It's true, he did. Daniel locked his front tyres and just tobogganed towards him.
Folding his front wing end plate.
He's giving him massive amount of space. But
yeah. Folding his front wing end plate, Hülkenberg on Ricciardo, like some sort of paper aeroplane there. Sebastian Vettel moves past Daniel Ricciardo now, up into 6th place.
Yeah, Ricciardo will obviously lose some aero performance from that as well.
Out in front, while all this is happening, the gap between Leclerc and Hamilton is 10 seconds. I don't want to put any curses on anybody, but with 15 laps to go, this is looking utterly beautiful for Charles Leclerc. In his second race for Ferrari, he's got a 10-second lead with 15 laps to go.
And, of course, at the moment, fastest lap.
Yeah.
He's got another World Championship point for that.
This is how Sebastian Vettel managed to get past his former teammate. Nico Hülkenberg next on the road.
A bit of mathematics as it pops up somewhere. Who will lead the World Championship at this point?
Valtteri Bottas.
Bottas will still, won't he? Because Leclerc finished 5th in Australia. Should it finish like this? And now 15 laps to go. And we've seen plenty of action so far. Great Grand Prix, hasn't it? I've enjoyed this.
It's been a super Grand Prix. Just thinking, Lewis Hamilton would have 36 points for a couple of second places. Valtteri Bottas picked up 26 points, plus 15 is 51. This is where I need your mate Carol Vorderman with me in the commentary box to say she's good with numbers. She can work all this out.
I think Bottas will still lead the World Championship tonight. Should they stay as they are.
I'll get my notepad out. Paul de Resta at Race Control to you.
Yeah, there could be yet more problems for Vettel, Crofty. On his dash, it said use high gear. You can see it just underneath the graphics we've got. It's in big, bold signs in red, so I think temperature issue or something's going wrong, so he'll need to nurse that car to the end.
There may be some radiator damage, of course. There's been a lot of shrapnel coming off the front wing as he went over it, so maybe something in his radiator duct. What he doesn't need to be is in the slipstream of another car.
Say, keep it nice and cool. The best way to do that, and there's another hazard out on the track as well. Double waved yellows. Best way to cool the car down, get past the car in front. Sebastian Vettel's trying to do that under braking. He does. Nice move from Sebastian Vettel. 5th place is now his.
But that's probably as high as he's going to get. He's 26 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Verstappen's tyres. Verstappen pitted.
He's lapping at about the same pace as Verstappen.
Yeah, so he's just gone over. What was that? Looked like a plastic bag as well for good measure. That depending on where that ended up. So what will Vettel do now? Nurse it to the end? He's going to struggle to catch Verstappen, isn't he?
Yeah. So Nico Rosberg in our pre-race show was talking about some epic battles here in Bahrain, and particularly all the way up to turn 4. Nico seems to have done for Sebastian Vettel tonight, sadly.
Yeah, but what a great race we've seen. But yeah, Vettel just really continuing on from what he was doing last year, just messing it up again, spinning around again in a battle. Unbelievable that it keeps on happening to him. And just a comment to the drive in high gear. That's just a reminder for him, most likely, because it's a manner of driving to save fuel.
It's not a track, Martin. Thank you, Nico. That is that high on fuel consumption, but of course that 110 kilos that you're allowed from lights out to the checkered flag, you don't have to use it all up, don't have to put it all in.
Don't put it all in. Most of them don't put it in, do they? But also there's been no safety car.
Yeah.
The pace has been pretty hot. So they normally underfuel the cars to start the race because it costs you 0.3 of a second per lap for every 10 kilograms of fuel that you carry.
There goes Lando Norris on Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo saw his teammate dancing around the outside into turn 1. He's now seen Lando Norris do it as well. Kimi Räikkönen is waiting to see what he can pick up from this particular battle. Well done, Lando Norris. Up into 7th place. Ricciardo's coming back at him. Norris still gets a burst of DRS there to keep ahead. And still Kimi Räikkönen behind the both of them. We haven't had a safety car tonight. We have the last 2 years here. 4 times in total, but no safety car this evening, which, given the action that we've had, Martin, is somewhat surprising. He's really struggling now, isn't he, Ricciardo? Wheel spin and sliding away as he gets out of the slow corners.
Yeah, one stopper hasn't worked for Daniel, has it?
Not at the moment. We've lost from this race just Roman Grosjean. 19 runners at the moment. Giovinazzi in 13th place, all the way down to Carlos Sainz, have all been lapped.
Alex Albon in the points as well now for Toro Rosso. 4 tenths ahead of Gasly, though, in the Red Bull.
Yeah, Gasly, who qualified worse in the Red Bull this year here than he did in the Toro Rosso last year, but he is very much closing in on Alex Albon for that last points finish at the moment. Sergio Perez just behind, a little way off for a Racing Point team where their pace has rather disappeared here this weekend. Kimi Räikkönen now on Daniel Ricciardo, who's seeing a lot of cars passing him. Not on an ideal strategy here in Bahrain, trying to make it work for a one-stopper. And he's been passed there by Kimi Räikkönen fairly easily in the Alfa Romeo. And Ricciardo drops down into 9th place.
9.5 seconds ahead of Gasly, the man who took his seat at Red Bull. Will he be safe there or not? We'll find out.
If you pit him now, you're asking even a man who's so good at overtaking as Daniel Ricciardo to do an awful lot of work. That's the race leader, under pressure from the Racing Point. No, it isn't. That's the race leader lapping Sergio Perez.
There's something strange with the engine.
Okay, copy that. We are checking it.
There's something strange with the engine.
Oh no, I hope not. I hope that's just the worry of a man leading his first Formula One Grand Prix, getting ever close to the finish. You know what it's like, Martin, when you're in a winning position. You can imagine all sorts of things going on.
Yeah, and he lost 8, 10, 9 tenths to Hamilton on that lap. So he was struggling for pace. He's lost another 1.3 in the first sector alone. He's lost a lot of pace, has Charles Leclerc.
He certainly has. The gap, look at it, was over 10 seconds. Now coming down to about 7.5 seconds as well. Now this is really, really worrying moments for Ferrari and for Charles Leclerc. Tense moments in the Mercedes garage as well. There are tense moments at McLaren. Can Lando Norris fight off Kimi Räikkönen? Räikkönen's going to have to go a long way round here. Norris parked that orange McLaren in exactly the right place, kept the more experienced man at bay. But this is young and old, dueling on the track here in Bahrain. Norris is under pressure once again and holds off Kimi Räikkönen once again to keep that 7th place.
38.0 there for Leclerc. 1 minute 38.0. Very slow. Gap down to 6.8 seconds. The Ferrari is limping.
Valtteri Bottas is about 30 seconds or so, 31 seconds or so behind Lewis Hamilton. If he doesn't win, he's got to stand on the podium. It would be utterly heartbreaking for Charles Leclerc to have at least that moment taken away from him tonight, and I'm sure he's going to stand on the podium and on the top of it many times to come.
What's happening?
Whatever's happening, we're not hearing about it. I hope that man there, the team principal at Ferrari, Matteo Binotto, has an answer for him. But he's getting agitated, he's getting concerned, and in a few moments' time he's going to start to see the silver arrow of Lewis Hamilton behind him.
I wonder if he's lost the battery power of the car. Look how close now Hamilton appears, foreshortened on that camera angle. But Hamilton 1.7 seconds faster in the first sector. Leclerc has lost a lot of power.
We saw that issue, didn't we, with Daniel Ricciardo losing all the hybrid energy, the electrical energy in Monaco, of course, last year. But in Monaco, Martin, it's an awful lot harder to pass than it is here in Bahrain. Let's head to Paul at race control.
Crofty, look at the speed traps. He's 25k down on the straight and up to 30k down on the straight. He's losing power rapidly, and he can. Sorry, the Racing Point's pulling away.
Yeah, that's it.
No H recovery.
So, Martin, I think you are absolutely right there. That sounds like the turbo.
No H recovery.
No H recovery, the turbo's gone.
Yeah, they're not harvesting power. They're not filling the batteries up from the H, the heat, the turbo. And that's going to cost young Charles Leclerc victory. Not even cost him a podium yet.
Well,
could well, in fact, almost certainly cost him a podium now.
You can see when you see the rear of that Ferrari that there is no H recovery because those lights aren't flashing to show that the engine is harvesting. Lewis Hamilton is catching Charles Leclerc. Now, normally when you see a pass for the lead, you want to get excited. You want to marvel in what's going on. I don't think anybody with a heart is going to be marveling at what we're seeing here. Charles Leclerc, second youngest pole sitter in the history of Formula One, who has coped admirably with tonight's race, has been absolutely superb at times, lost the lead from the start of this race, battled his way back into the lead, is soon going to be passed for the lead by Lewis Hamilton. And the heartbreaking thing is there is nothing, Martin, he can do to stop the inevitable.
Now, so slow, isn't he? He's got no power. Lewis won't want to go up the inside of that particular corner, and he doesn't need to. Leclerc's a sitting duck.
So Lewis Hamilton down towards the final corner, takes the lead of the Bahrain Grand Prix. You can vote for your driver of the day. And I would imagine Charles Leclerc is going to get an awful lot of votes for driver of the day. It's a round of applause down at Mercedes. Toto Wolff sits impassively on that Mercedes pit wall in the garage. He's not going to celebrate that. That's not the way he would have wanted his team to take the lead. But I'll tell you what, Martin, he will be a mightily relieved man that his team have taken the lead.
So he's half a minute ahead of Bottas and Verstappen. He might still hang in if he keeps that amount of pace, hang on to second place.
Fernando Alonso knows a thing or two about podiums at a racetrack without winning. 8 of them at Interlagos without ever winning. In Brazil, Kimi Raikkonen has had 8 podiums here without ever winning a race as well. Charles Leclerc, we keep everything crossed, will finish on the podiums. You just want to see good things happen to good guys.
So if he's not got any battery power, that's 160 horsepower, which will push a family saloon along very nicely indeed. That's what he's missing now. So he's carrying the same weight, the same aero drag, but with 160 horsepower less.
So what it means, though, Lewis Hamilton now in the lead of this race, and I think that pass gives him the virtual lead in the World Championship as well.
And is this what they were protecting in Australia with Ferrari? They were protecting something because they were just off their true pace there.
Well,
so it's just the engine pushing it along. He doesn't have the battery, but he's carrying all the gubbins as well.
All throughout this weekend, Ferrari have insisted, Martin, they've been running that engine at higher modes, higher settings. So I wonder, have they been stress testing things a little bit to work out, you know, if this indeed was the problem?
The gap behind with Bottas is fine. We should finish like this.
He's got to go faster than that. But he's coasting into the corners. He's got to keep the pace up because he's got to keep his tyre temperatures and pressures up and his brake temperatures up. He was coasting into the last corner. He's got to do a Michael Schumacher here and pretend there's nothing wrong and just eke every bit out of it, and he can still finish second.
But second, though, Martin, is that in any way a consolation? You're going to be talking to him straight after this race, and I'm sure you're going to be asking him, is the first podium, is this a consolation for you? And I don't know what the answer will be.
Maybe a good point from Anthony coming up into my ears. If he's not harvesting, then he's putting a lot of energy into the rear brake. The rear brakes are not big enough without the engine pulling. We see those red lights flashing where it's slowing the car, it's almost pulling the handbrake on, slowing the car down to charge the batteries. But if you don't have that facility, your rear brakes are not big enough.
Follow the numbers on the dash.
Yeah, but I can't. Oh my God. I will try.
And keep calm. We need the car home.
Yes, I will try. I'm keeping calm.
Copy.
It's the most agitated we've heard him, and I'm not surprised. Frankly, he's driven the perfect race.
Absolutely. At the moment, Valtteri Bottas is lapping about 5 seconds a lap quicker. There's Danny Kvyat unlapping himself against Charles Leclerc. The gap between Leclerc and Bottas was 22.8 seconds at the end of the last lap. Leclerc now crosses the line. Valtteri Bottas coming through the final corner in just a few moments' time. There he is, right at the top of your screen. So that's gone down to about 16 seconds now So from 22.8 seconds to 15.9 seconds in one lap. If Valtteri Bottas keeps on this pace, it's another Mercedes 1-2 at the start of this season.
Yeah, Leclerc's heading for fourth place here, and that's by dint of Vettel having had his issues. So another fourth and fifth at the moment for Ferrari, assuming it gets to the end.
I don't know, Martin. He might even be overtaken by Max Verstappen at this rate as well. Looking at Verstappen's times,
that's what I mean. I think he'll be heading for fourth place. Verstappen up into third. That's what I was.
Sorry, you're right. Yeah. Verstappen, an unlikely podium, and carry on his run. He's got what, podium in the last 6 races. I don't think he thought that was possible tonight.
Okay, Valtteri, no need to take risks. We're going to do it with 1 lap spare.
So if Valtteri Bottas can do it with 1 lap to spare, Verstappen at this pace will probably need to do it on the final lap, just to twist the knife even further into the heart of Charles Leclerc.
I think that's an old message, because Bottas and Verstappen are catching Leclerc way faster than that.
Yeah, could be right. Lando Norris, by the way, still keeping Kimi Raikkonen at bay in 7th place. Christian Horner on the Red Bull pit wall. Christian, do you see a podium here?
Well, it's going to be awfully close if he keeps going around at this pace. Probably 2 laps before the end, we should be right with him. So really unlucky for him, but you know, obviously there's a podium in the offing here.
Yeah, which I'm sure you'll take, but you know, as a racer yourself, this is heartbreaking for Charles Leclerc, and I'm sure you feel very much for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's been totally dominant all weekend, so you know, sad for him, but obviously for us it's an opportunity. We've got to get our head down and try and close these laps out as quick as we can.
Thanks, Christian.
Downshifts are very cocky. Very cocky. Okay, copy.
What was that word?
Did that sound to me like Valtteri was very cocky? Paul de Restes at Sky Race Control. I think you might, Paul, have heard that message a little bit clearer.
Downshifts are very clunky, Crofty, so he's maybe struggling with the gearbox now, so it could change again.
Downshifts are very clunky. I honestly thought he said Valtteri's been very cocky. And I didn't know how he could tell that, whether Valtteri's got a secret radio message to Lewis or not. But it did sound that to me. It's been a long night.
So, it's been a long night for Charles Leclerc, sadly. I've got a sneaky feeling he might get driver of the day. He'd certainly get my vote.
If only there were 25 points for driver of the day.
Yeah, and he still has fastest lap, so he gets a point for that, providing he finishes inside the top 10.
Which he certainly should do if he stays on the road. Lewis Hamilton, though, leading this race on lap 53. And what a lucky break that has been for Lewis Hamilton tonight. He's seen 1 Ferrari sent into a spin as he passed him round the outside, and the other Ferrari's turbo stopped spinning and cost him the chance of a race victory. Championships are won and lost on many things throughout the season, but for all your consistency, for all your excellent efforts, you often need a bit of good fortune to go your way.
Yeah, he's got a long career ahead of him, very long career ahead of him, so he'll get his chance. This was certainly his race. And as you can see, Bottas now sailing up behind him, and Verstappen only 7.3 seconds behind that, which is little more than a lap.
With this pace, no catching?
Yes.
I say a little, when I say a little more...
40 kph down in car speed. Straight line.
A little more than a lap, that he's gaining that sort of time over a given lap.
So there's Valtteri Bottas closing in on Charles Leclerc. Look, we can bring in Nico Rosberg now. Nico, I remember a race back in Canada many years ago where you had to nurse a car home when you lost the rear energy recovery as well, and you were nursing your brakes. How difficult is it for a driver in these circumstances to actually bring the car home?
It's absolutely heartbreaking for him, and sport can be so unfair sometimes, and that's what's happening to him today. He's doing his best to try and bring it home, but Bottas is just about to pass him. Let's see if he can stay ahead of Verstappen.
Nico, thanks ever so much indeed. You'll hear more from Nico with Simon and the gang after the conclusion of this Grand Prix, which has been led for so long by Charles Leclerc. He's still in the top 3, but only just at the moment as Valtteri Bottas now passes him. It's gone from a Ferrari 1-2 to a Mercedes 1-2, and if you feel for Charles Leclerc, Paul di Resta, you've got to feel for everyone in that Ferrari garage as well, because this could have been the night that they could start to really celebrate, and good things happening to them, but it's going to be a long, long night to pack up instead.
This could have been a 1-2, couldn't it, Crofty? And they'll rue the mistake of Vettel again, that spin. And then obviously picking up the wing damage because of the vibration. Hamilton, a class act again. He put Vettel under pressure.
Yeah.
He calculated, measured, done exactly what he had to do. And, you know, they'll be thinking when they go away from here. Mercedes should think lucky at the same time, but their tactics have been good. At the same time on, you know, they're going to have a 1-2 in both Grand Prix so far this year, and that is a massive impact.
We have a yellow flag being waved in sector 1. It's car number 27. It's Nico Hülkenberg in the Renault. Now he's gone off into the runoff area, I think, at the end of the straight. And I wonder what's happened there. Daniel Ricciardo's there as well.
Both cars on one lap.
Now, is this mechanical problem, or have they come together again? I only ask that because they have done previously in this race. Pushes Sergio Perez into the points now. And
it almost looks like they've ran out of fuel both together at the same time. I mean,
it was not a bad guess if that's right, Paul.
Everything just cut out.
So that, you would assume, is electrics then, if everything is just cut out, electrics or hydraulics. Let's have a listen on board with Daniel Ricciardo.
And that was a yellow flag for Hülkenberg as well, or was that at the same point?
Right at the same point as his teammate. They just pulled over to the side of the track.
And this is on board with Hülkenberg. Oh, that's nasty. That's a big failure.
Oh,
that's one engine down.
That is not looking good for Renault in the slightest there, who've already sent safety car has been deployed as well, which might come to Charles Leclerc's aid a little bit. Because if those cars aren't recovered and we have a safety car to the end of the race, Charles Leclerc might just keep hold of third place.
At the same time, if they restart this race, Crofty, he's in trouble.
Yeah, but how long does it take to recover that one Renault and two Renaults? I say might come to Charles Leclerc's aid. I'm just looking on the positive side.
I think you might be right. I think it might finish under safety car here.
Which would certainly help him. In terms of Renault, Paul, that's a Carlos Sainz retiring in the McLaren as well. He was already quite a long way down after suffering damage when he clashed with Max Verstappen in the opening stages of this race. But Sainz, of course, stopped with an MG UK problem. Renault powered in the first race. Renault have just had two power-related issues, it looks like. That's not good for engines, power unit, you know, worries and troubles.
It doesn't look good when you see Australia as well, but Lando Norris, shout out for him, P6 after those two failures as well. Good points for McLaren, you know, in front of all their management and board members.
Well, it's contrasting fortunes, isn't it, as Carlos Sainz retires for a second time this season. Lando Norris is preparing to celebrate a best finish in Formula One, a first points finish in Formula One, a top 6 finish in Formula One. Who's your driver of the day? Who would you vote for?
There is absolutely no question who driver of the weekend has been.
That man there?
And it's the man in third place.
Absolutely.
There is not a person in this paddock is not going to feel the pain he's going to go through. And he's so level-headed. After yesterday, when the team were congratulating him, he said, the job is tomorrow. And you can only feel the letdown. And the fact that he battled back from falling those few places at the first lap, and he just showed his true class, his true racecraft. It will come again very soon, and I hope at the next Grand Prix, certainly it comes that quick, because it deserves to.
Martin Brundle was on his way down to interview the top 3, and I think he's probably in the tunnel underneath the track at the moment. Someone needs to tell him why Charles Leclerc could still be in the top 3 at the end of this race, and he might not be expecting it, but After all the bad fortune for Charles Leclerc, this is looking like good fortune at the moment. We might get the 8th World Championship Grand Prix to finish behind a safety car, and the first since China in 2015. Valtteri Bottas started 4th. In 2nd place, Charles Leclerc started on pole.
Will it finish on the safety car?
Not sure yet, not sure.
And he's asking, does this race finish under the safety car?
It will, Crofty, because they've not even caught the safety car yet, and then they would have to do another lap before it comes in. So lucky for him, I think it's all done.
And it'll be another Mercedes 1-2 as well. There's Hamilton trying to keep his tyres warm just in case they get a restart. He doesn't want to be going too fast there, Paul. He almost overtook the safety car, which is a big no-no. They might just have cleared the 2 Renaults, but I think we're on to the final lap anyway. Oh, they've cleared 1 Renault, and they've still got Daniel Ricciardo's to clear down there.
And that car looks live as well. You can tell that with that flashing red light. So that means stand clear unless you've got a set of marigolds on.
Absolutely.
You don't want to earth it.
Now, Toto Wolff has been through a few emotions this evening as well. He's going to positively age throughout this season, Paul, if it carries on the way that it's going. But this has been a sensational Grand Prix. It really has, and I hope we're set for many more battles to come like this.
Well, this is the first tester of how these new aero regs work, and can the cars follow closer? Yes, we've got another DRS zone here. The switch is bigger, but what's been nice is the first 2 or 3 laps we've seen cars battle for the lead. Leclerc passed his teammate Vettel. Retook it because he had the faster car,
which is brilliant.
And you could obviously see Hamilton, Bottas, they were fighting strong, but midfield as well. It just shows you how close it is. I think we really are. And China is always one of the best races of the year normally.
Yes, in 2 weeks' time we head to China for the 1000th World Championship Grand Prix, and of the previous 999, this might actually rank somewhere up there. You always get a good race in China. You can watch it, of course, live, exclusively live, in ultra-high definition as well on Sky Sports F1. Do join us for what we all think is going to be a magnificent race, and one that's certainly worth getting up early for. You didn't have to get up that early if you were in the UK for this one tonight here in Bahrain. Lewis Hamilton, when he woke up this morning, did he really think that he'd be taking victory? Halfway through this race, did he really think he'd be taking victory?
Okay, Lewis, so the safety car is going to come into the pit lane, and that's going to be checkered flag.
And it's going to finish behind the safety car for the 8th time in the history of Formula One. Mercedes, who started the season with a 1-2 in Australia. It was Valtteri Bottas ahead of Lewis Hamilton. It's been a rather more complicated race here in Bahrain this evening, but the result is it's a Mercedes 1-2 again. They started behind Ferrari, they finish ahead of Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton wins the Bahrain Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas comes home in 2nd place. Charles Leclerc gets his first podium in Formula One. It should have been his first victory, but it was cruelly taken away from him through no fault of his own. Max Verstappen finishes 4th, and his run of consecutive podium finishes ends here tonight. Sebastian Vettel, 5th place only after his spin after Lewis Hamilton passed him. Well done, Lando Norris, a top 6 finish for the first and surely not the last time in F1. Kimi Räikkönen in the points for a 2nd race. Pierre Gasly on the board for the first time this year. Albon for Toro Rosso for the first time ever, and Sergio Perez takes the final point for Force India. Fireworks reach into the night sky. We had plenty of fireworks on track for 57 laps.
Yeah, you can see by Toto's face, you know, they know they were up against it today. They'll celebrate it. You can see the mechanics are on the pit wall. Ferrari again. They're going to have to go away, and they've got a busy few weeks ahead of them, Crofty. A busy few weeks, and I hope that doesn't impact their engine allocation going forward to impact, because this championship looks like it's really setting up to be a nice one. And this guy, don't write him off to be the world champion on board.
50% of the vote he took in the driver of the day poll. I'm amazed it wasn't higher, quite frankly. He'll be on the podium many more times, I'm sure. The 50th man to lead a race in a Ferrari, his maiden career pole. his maiden career podium. He's done what Valtteri Bottas did here in Bahrain in 2017. Bottas took his maiden pole that night and then finished third.
What a shame, first time on the podium, not to stand on that top step.
Get in there, Lewis. That was a hell of a race. That was an awesome drive. There's some lovely overtakes there, mate.
Well, guys, that was extremely unfortunate for Charles. He drove such a great race. We've got work to do to try and keep these guys in our tails.
Well, I think that's a nice touch, referring to Charles Leclerc first, before obviously, you know, wanting to be delighted with the win and stressing that there's an awful lot of work to be done.
That's a coded message back to Brackley.
Yeah, and Brixworth maybe as well.
Yeah, get to your office quickly tomorrow morning because...
what's happened here?
Yeah, Max just had a little spin, I think just probably because the tyres were cool under safety car.
Yeah.
And he's probably just caught him out slightly. He's not doing donuts, I think, for celebration.
Oh. Well, guys, I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. What a shame, what an amazing race we've had.
Well, I'm sure that there'll be an awful lot said in the debrief. He picks up the fastest lap of the race as well, gets an extra point for that fastest lap, pulls to the right-hand side of Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes. Could very easily have been pulling into the #1 spot, but it is Hamilton for a 74th time in Formula One. Another win, and the championship leader heading home, a Mercedes 1-2 yet again. They didn't have the pace to cope with Ferrari. They needed Sebastian Vettel to make a mistake. They needed a mechanical issue to affect Charles Leclerc. But at the end of the season, the statistics will say Hamilton 25 points, Bottas 18 points. Mercedes with a 1-2 yet again. It looks like he's had a tough race, Paul.
He's having to work for it, isn't he? You could tell yesterday he wasn't ready to give up when I was interviewing him after quali. He was happy. But he knows Ferrari means something. And you can see Bottas wasn't really in the race today, was he? After that dominant win in Australia, he was at one point 35 seconds behind.
Whether Charles Leclerc can hear Lewis Hamilton underneath the din of those fireworks, I don't know, but another nice touch there to go over to him and say hard luck. As Hamilton celebrates, by the way, the stewards are having a look at Daniel Ricciardo for not attaching his steering wheel after leaving the car. I assume that you have to put the steering wheel back on, Paul, to help the marshals recover it.
Yeah, I think that might come down to probably some of that nice contract he's got. He might lose some of that.
Yes, congratulations on an outstanding victory. You have to work so hard for that one.
Yeah, today was a really hard job. This weekend, the Ferraris have been incredible, and you know, I just had to see Charles because he did such a great job, and you know, I'm sure it was a devastating result for him, obviously, because he had done the job to win the race. So we were definitely lucky today, but you have to take it as it comes, and ultimately I still gave it everything in the race, and I pushed as hard as I could, and obviously the fight that I had with Vettel was great fun for me. So
yeah, take us through that. You went around the outside of turn 4 a couple of times and Seb spun off behind you.
Yeah, so if you look at that big flag on top of that tower, there's a massive headwind into turn 4, so I just gave it everything and braked later than usual and dived down the outside, and yeah, I mean, I don't think we touched or anything like that, but yeah, this is a great result for the team considering how hard the race was, and you know, this guy here, he's got lots more wins coming in the future, so big congratulations to you, dude.
I'm going to get back to you, Charles. I just have a quick word with Valtteri. Valtteri, P2, pretty satisfying, but the pace was a bit difficult, but you were there when it mattered.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a team we got a bit lucky today, but you know, we kept it together. We did no mistake as a team, and the car was very reliable, and that's the win today. So all the hard work at the factory is paying off like this, so that is good. Otherwise difficult race for me. It's just the balance of the car was a bit everywhere. You know, ended up doing a lot of mistakes and so on, but
a great start, and you weren't giving Lewis any extra space there in the early laps.
No, I never will. But I mean, yeah, first lap was good. Had a bit of a lock-up into turn 1, so lost the place and had a good battle with Lewis, and congrats to him.
Okay, congratulations on second place. Oh, Charles. I think your car should be parked there today.
It happens. It's part of motorsport. Unfortunately, today it was not our day, but I'm confident the team has done an amazing job to recover the lack of pace in Australia. And yeah, what to say? Of course, I'm extremely disappointed, like the whole team, but it happens in the seasons. I think we made the best out of it. We have been lucky in a very unlucky situation because hopefully we had the safety car at the end, otherwise we'll have finished even more rearward, and also I don't think with the fuel we'll have been okay. So yeah, very hard one to take, but thanks to the team for the amazing car all weekend long, and I'm pretty sure we'll come back stronger.
Well, you got the point for fastest lap. So the first few corners seemed a bit difficult, low grip, but then you took the lead beautifully.
Yeah, I didn't do a good start, and yeah, then we were very strong all race long. So it's a shame to only finish third, but at the end, yeah, as I said, it's part of racing, and we'll come back stronger.
It's your first podium. Let's look on the bright side.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, as I've said a lot in the past, I'm never really looking at the results, and I'm more looking at the potential there was to do better. And yeah, today third was not our place, but yeah, very happy anyway. Congratulations to Lewis and Valtteri, and yeah, as I said many times, we'll come back stronger.
These people are looking forward to seeing you up on the podium. Great race.
And he will be on the podium. Jock Clear, who works with not just Ferrari, but more importantly, Charles Leclerc, a racing engineer behind the scenes. Let's have a listen in the driver's cool-down room.
I had a really black one, but then I had a lock up into turn 1.
Did you?
Yeah, and you got it into turn 4.
I sat behind me last time defending. Went into turn 1, and he actually wasn't even attacking me. I was just breaking. He didn't watch that. And then he also got me and I was straight. But there were two different straight.
71.1. Thank you very much. Well done.
You doing great this weekend, man.
Yeah.
You really doing fantastic.
Good.
Yeah.
So following.
And man, there's a long future ahead of you, so.
Also.
Yeah, no, it sucks in this moment, but you got a long way to go, so.
Thank you so much.
More than twice more than me, and then twice more than him still. You lost the power of the
So, Lewis and Valtteri having their own little debrief, and then giving some experience consolations to Charles Leclerc as he walks in. Toto Wolff, along with his wife Susie Wolff, both of course team principals in the world of motorsport now, waiting underneath the podium. And that's fastest lap points, Paul de Resta, that Martin Brundle mentioned for Charles Leclerc. Well, we can tell you how important the fastest lap is this year. It's keeping Valtteri Bottas ahead of Lewis Hamilton at the top of the Drivers' Championship. Leclerc at the moment 4th place with 26 points this season. But Valtteri Bottas, who comes out next onto the podium, leads Lewis Hamilton by 1 point in the Drivers' Championship. That 1 point he got for the fastest lap, of course, in Melbourne. And Lewis Hamilton, winner of the second race of the season, a 1-2 for Mercedes. First time they've had one here in Bahrain since 2014.
National anthem.
Congratulations then for Lewis Hamilton, who picks up his third win here in the Bahrain Grand Prix, a 74th in his career. And in this turbo hybrid era, his 52nd win in 102 races, which is more than Alain Prost managed in his entire career. Valtteri Bottas keeps the championship lead by 1 point and maintains his 100% finishing record in 7 visits to Bahrain. And Mercedes pick up a 1-2 and a very healthy lead in the Constructors' Championship. 87 points to Ferrari's 48. A smaller trophy there for the runner-up for Valtteri Bottas, who passes 1,000 career championship points as well. Surely, as Nico Rosberg watches on, of course, part of that Mercedes 1-2 in 2014. Surely this man will pass 1,000 points one day and will get many wins as well. It should have been his win today, but the recovery, the energy recovery went on his car. Charles Leclerc has to console himself with a first Formula One podium instead. For Lewis Hamilton, it's his 136th podium. It's Hamilton's smiles, it's Leclerc's disappointments. Mercedes 1-2 in the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Well, what a race. It had everything, didn't it? In the end, heartbreak for Charles Leclerc. Elation, or tempered elation, I'd say, for Lewis Hamilton, who picks up the 74th win of his career. He's never finished off the podium here in Bahrain in the turbo hybrid era. It's a 1-2 for the Mercedes drivers, as it was in Australia. 1 point separating Bottas from Hamilton, courtesy of that fastest lap that Bottas picked up last time around. And we'll be back in a fortnight's time with the 1000th Championship Grand Prix, the Chinese Grand Prix on Sky Sports F1. And in the run-in on Sky Sports Premier League, it's Liverpool-Tottenham. That's right now. I have